invite you to a special place and a special time. I'm on the back side of my pasture. I've got a cabin here down on the river that runs through our property, and it's a Friday morning. I love to come down here on a Friday morning, and especially it's sitting here raining today, and sit and think. I have my coffee and think. I stare at the fire, think about what has happened the past week, think what's going to happen next week, think about what can benefit you and me and everybody. The thing I'm going to talk about today, and I'll tell you the story, it's going to be irony, but first the story is, what I'm going to talk about today is, do you know who you really are? Do you really know who you are? And the irony with this is that I grew up and came of age in the early 80s. And I would remember sitting around watching TV with my parents, and one of the big craze things was in the 80s on TV was to have a wife or a husband or somebody say, I'm going to go off and find myself. And I used to just laugh to no end. I said, where have they lost themselves? What is this? It makes no sense. They've lost themselves. How do they have to find themselves? It makes no sense. But now the irony is that I understand what they're talking about, because I lost myself many times in my life and had to refine myself. But what I'm talking about today is, do you really know who you are? You know, you think about it. We are bombarded from the morning, or from the time we get up in the morning till the time we go to bed at night, with messages from marketers on TV, from the internet, from our friends, from our family, about what we should do, what we shouldn't do, what we should like, what we shouldn't like, what makes us happy, what doesn't make us happy, what we should wear, what we should eat, what we shouldn't wear, what we shouldn't eat. It goes on and on and on, what we should drive and what we shouldn't. And you know, one of the times down here, I realized that, you know, how do you really know what you are and what is made up from what society and people around you are telling you you should be? So one of the most important things to do if you're going to live life to the fullest, live life on your terms, is to know who you really are and cut through the crap of what somebody else says you should be or shouldn't be. And again, it's going to require some deep thought on your part. It is deep thinking. Some of you may make fun of it, just like I made fun of it in the early 80s, that I said, oh gosh, what a nut. They got to go find themselves. But the fact of the matter is, it's true. I have many successful clients. I know many successful people. And I will tell you that each and every one of them acts in ways that are inconsistent with really who they are. They've been affected by society, by their friends, sometimes in good ways, but a lot of times in bad ways. Let me tell you just for an example. Two gentlemen I know, and how one took one path and one took another, even though they were driven by the very same thing in life. Now this is not, this story is about health, this particular story, but it could apply to your finances, to your personal life, to your emotional life, to whatever you want it to apply, but this is health. But I had two clients, relatively both successful people, who were in their 70s. I had known them for about 20 years before. Both of them smoked when I knew them 20 years ago. And as they became clients of mine and pretty good friends, I would visit with them when they'd come to my office. And I found out that both of them they were both about the same age, and both had started smoking for the very same reason, and that was they had been told it was cool. If they wanted to be cool, that's what they would do. Their friends smoked, so they took up smoking. Now, here's where the story changes. About 5 years ago, I had one of the clients in my office, and I was talking to him, and I hadn't seen him in a while, and I said, you know, are you still smoking? He said, no, I gave up smoking about 7 years ago. He said, I got emphysema, and the doctor told me if I wanted to live, I would quit smoking. And I said, well, did you? And he said, yes, I did. He said, I I realized I was stupid and I gave it up. Now, about 2 weeks later, and these clients didn't know each other, so it's not like they're related in any way, shape, or form. About 2 weeks later, the other client was in my office. And I was talking to him, and he was pretty gloom about life. He said that he had been diagnosed with lung cancer, and things weren't looking good. And I asked him, I said, you're still smoking, aren't you? And he said, well, I got the diagnosis a couple weeks ago, and he said I quit smoking since then. And I talked to him a little bit about it. And he had told me that about 10 years before, he had had a major heart attack, and the doctor had told him then he needed to quit smoking. But now, he didn't tell me this. I don't want to quote him verbatim, so some of it was reading between the lines. But basically, it was that he had grown up in a world that had told him it was cool. If you were a man, you smoked. So what did he do? He smoked. And when the doctor told him the years before that he needed to quit smoking because of his heart attack and his health, he couldn't do it, because it wasn't that he lacked the ability to quit smoking, but he was so tied up in that's what he was, and he was a man, and he was a real man, that he smoked, and real men smoke. He then even went on. Here he was facing death, and told me how one of his friends was on oxygen and facing the last days of his life, and would have to go outside of the restaurant that they had coffee together to smoke his cigarette and do it on oxygen, and that he was a tough guy, and boy, he really admired him. And I realized right then and there, if you think about it, here this man had let the choice of someone other, the pressure of someone else to be something else, determine how he was going to live his life. He wasn't living life on his terms, although he thought so. If you were to ask him, are you living life according to what you want to live, or are you living on someone else's terms? He'd say, oh, absolutely, I'm living it on my terms. But the fact of the matter was, he didn't quit smoking because he thought his friends would consider him not a real man. Now, is that crazy or what? I will tell you, one of the things about changing your life, being all you can be, living life on your terms, is being honest with yourself. And if I'm going to expect you to be honest with yourself, and me be honest with myself, I think one of the things I need to say about me is I've made bad choices. And you can sit here by the fire and drink coffee all you want and contemplate life, and you're never going to figure out what is the real you, what is the influences, because it's a blurry line. Now, some things I can tell you, and that's what I'm getting ready to tell you. I will tell you, in my life, I wanted to be a farmer and rancher from as tiny little kid as long as I can remember. That's all I wanted to be. I had no ambition to go to college, to law school, nothing else. And in fact, if anyone said, you're going to go to college and law school, when I was even 23, 24 years old, I would have laughed at them. No, I'm going to be a farmer and rancher. And ultimately, though economic situation changed, and I was forced to look outside myself to do something else. And so when I was in college, I was trying to fit in, trying to be cool, trying to make new friends, make a new life. And one of the things that influenced me, and it was it ended up a good decision, but it was made for the wrong reason, and that is I was trying to fit in. I really didn't think any girl would want to date, let alone marry, some poor farm kid who was down on his financial luck. So I realized at that time, and after visiting with a lot of people and hearing everything, they said, oh, be a lawyer. You know, the girls just fell all over themselves about being lawyers and this and that. And so I decided for that reason to go to law school. Now again, it worked out good, but the reason that I made that decision was wrong. I was letting society, insecurities, and a lot of other things drive me to do things that weren't me. Now again, it worked out good. But, again, the fact of the matter is, it was for bad